So over the last few months, I've been trying to do some research by watching videos and watching documentaries and reading books on what makes a successful man. So they found that the characteristics are having a goal, knowing what would happen if you don't achieve the goal, and then focusing on that goal and focusing in the moment to achieve that goal. So I think Alex Hormozy, a YouTuber, said it best. He's also a multi-millionaire. He says you have to have a superiority complex, you have to have a fear of never being enough, and you have to have impulse control. So Jordan Peterson also talks about this by saying anyone, not just the successful, can't move forward without having a goal and then knowing what would happen if they don't achieve that goal, which is the dragon as he calls it, and then being in the present to strive toward the future. Now, there's a lot of YouTubers that will tell you you need to have the growth mindset and you need to have time management skills and all these other skills, which are true. You do need them. And they'll tell you you need a morning routine and you need to wake up this time every morning, which isn't the wrong advice. But you should start by knowing if you don't even get to the work. So let's say you fill up your whole day with doing your journaling, doing your daily practices and doing your rituals. And at the end of the day, you're so tired, you don't even get to your work. Then all you're actually doing is you're becoming a entrepreneur. And you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur to start to improve your life. But that is the goal I have. I've set for myself. I want to be an entrepreneur. And I've found that I myself have been that person that says, I'm going to do this and this and this that day. And then I end up being so tired and I don't get to everything I want to do. And I don't get to the actual work. Because if you look at the 80-20 rule, 20% of what you do really does give you 80% of your outcome will happen. So if you don't focus your time on the correct things and the right things, you'll end up having terrible results and you won't understand why you haven't been moving forward. So it's important to note that if you want to achieve something, set the goals clearly. Then also look at what would happen if you didn't achieve those goals. So if something chases you and you know that what you're striving towards is worth it. So let's take my example. I want to become a good man and a very successful and wealthy man. Those things will bring me closer to my goals. Those are my goals. Why do I want it? I wanted to make sure that I can take care of people around me. I want to make sure that I've got a bit of time freedom and I've got a bit of financial freedom to do what I want and when I want to do it. But now, if I just focused on that, then it's basically driving on motivation instead of driving on the emotions of fear and motivation. And the fears are, if I don't achieve it, I can't look after my own family. I can't look after the ones I love, and I won't have time to do anything but work my hours away. And we all know your hours aren't really the measure of how much you earn. If you continuously trade your time for money, then you're doing it wrong. You should definitely try and focus on how to get leverage on your time. So a small amount of input should give you a large amount of output. But this will only come after a period of time. And that's the problem with all these other YouTubers saying, do this and this and this and this every morning. But you don't have the leverage to do all of those things and then get to work. You need to work. You need to use your hours and your time to do the work so that when you do have the leverage, your little amount of work that you have to do after already having the leverage will give you massive amounts of outputs. Because at the beginning, it's just a 1-to-1 ratio. Your time put in is the amount of output you'll get. And that's a brilliant way of having to measure how much output you're getting. So don't fall into the trap of just mentally masturbating and going over and over and over all the nice things you've done and congratulating yourself. Measure what you've done. Measure what the outcome of those things are you've done. And then try to find a way to improve your system. And then why should you be in the present? Why shouldn't you be living in the future in your head and living in the past? Why should you be focused now? Well, if you don't have impulse control, you end up losing track of time and you think about everything that's nice in the future, but you haven't done anything to go towards that future. And if you live in the past, you end up just wasting time living in the past and thinking about everything that has happened, could have happened, and should have happened, but there's nothing that will change from you thinking about the past. And there's not a lot you can change just by thinking about the future. You physically have to do things to get to the future you have been dreaming about. So don't just get stuck in those two states of thinking of the future and the past. Think about it, both sides. What's your goal? What's the dragon chasing you? And if you put those things together, find what you need to do now. Focus on what you need to do now. And if you know what you need to do now, then do it. Do it consistently every day. A lot of people will just do it for weeks on end and then have one bad day and then they stop completely. A failure is not a full failure if you just continue. If you stop and if you decide, you know what, I failed, so I'm a failure, then you are a failure. It is very clearly stated in the Bible, and I love the fact that Luke Belmore pointed this out. He says, he read this in the Bible. I also read it in the Bible, but I found it very interesting that Luke Belmore also said it. What a man thinketh, a man is. So if you think you are a failure, then you end up becoming a failure. And if you think you are a winner, and you continuously work to be a winner, you are a winner. Now, this doesn't mean you should live in a delusion, but it definitely means that there's no harm in thinking good and better things for yourself and for your future, rather than thinking bad things. Because, as the Bible says, and many other texts actually say, as a man thinketh, so he is. So, definitely continue to work towards your goals. Definitely continue to work for a better future. Become the man that you want to be. Design that man. David Goggins himself said, I created Goggins. He used to be overweight. He couldn't run. He couldn't do all the things he could do now. But over years of training and years of practicing and designing that man he wanted to be, he just wanted to be a warrior, that guy. So if you want to be a warrior, then choose what you need to do. There are many people around us, especially with the internet, who've shown us how to get to those places. There's no reason for you to go and try and do it a different way than everyone else. If you don't know what to do yet, but you know who you want to become, follow the people that have done it and start doing what they have been doing. And once you are at a point where you can't just do what they've been doing because you are not them, then try and find your own way. But first get on the path of trying to develop yourself and trying to improve yourself, because there's no point in trying to prove that you're so much different when most people aren't different. There's no point. You are only different once you get to that branching path of, I can't just do what everyone else has been doing. So follow the guys that have been doing it correctly. Do what they do. And until you get there where you can't just follow them, continue to follow them. And one day, it takes time, it takes years. It's not just a year, it's not just a week, it's not just a month. You can't just gym for a week and then expect yourself to have a six-pack. You can't just expect yourself to be a genius after reading one book. You need to read, you need to practice, you need to continuously train yourself to become mentally tough, mentally fit, physically fit. But it takes years, no matter what special niche you want to get into. It takes years of practice and turmoil. So know that it's going to be hard, know that it's going to be difficult, and then tackle it. And once it gets hard, tell yourself, good, this is what I said it's going to be like. Now you don't know what it's going to feel like until you're there, but don't just quit because it's hard now. You knew it would be. Remind yourself of your future goals, and then remind yourself of the dragon that's going to catch you if you don't achieve those goals. Because the problem is, if you turn back from the point you are now, after getting to a point where you could almost achieve your goals, there's no way to get back to that point. It's going to take another handful of years just to get to a point where you could maybe have the same results. So start early. Don't quit. Focus on your goals, but do it. Do the actions necessary to get there. every day. Don't just mentally masturbate. Don't just end up thinking about your future and your past. Don't just end up being another guy that wants to be an entrepreneur or wants to be the next greatest guy. Be the greatest guy. Marcus Aurelius said it very well. He says, don't argue about what a good man should be. Be him. That just means do the practices you think a good man would be or be doing every day without hesitation. And if you fail, it's fine. Practice. Practice makes perfect. But you need to practice. You need to continue to do the things necessary to get to the place where you want to be. So the only problem I find is everyone says you're copying someone else, or you're taking someone else's quotes, or you're doing this or you're doing that by not being authentic. The problem is all of us are technically taking snippets of everyone else's lives and taking snippets of advice from everyone else. There's nothing wrong with that. That shapes your character, that shapes your person. You are only unique once you've created that character you want to be, because the combination of things you are what make you. I like engineering, I like entrepreneurship, and I like design. I am a bundle of different things. I'm not just a person that likes one thing, and that's not a bad thing. So don't feel like a fraud just because you're taking advice from different people or taking quotes and saying, well, this is what I believe and this is what I think. If you go through the thinking process of what Marcus Aurelius did, or Alex Hormozy did, or Luke Belmore went through, or going through all the processes of thinking things through, most of the things, or not most of them, some of them make sense. Think through it. Sit one day and just read the things that interest you and think about it logically. If it makes sense, it makes sense. Go through an iteration scientific process. Make a thesis. Find out if your speculations are correct, and if they are correct, then great, live with it. Don't be a fraud just because everyone else thinks you're a fraud. You're going to have days where you think, no, I'm just copying everyone else, and that makes sense because technically you are just taking things from everyone else. But everything and everyone has everything has been done, and the thing is, they are already billionaires. They are already millionaires. There's no reason to try and figure out a way to do it in a different way than them. There are paths set out for you. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean everyone's going to get there. That's why there's only a handful of them there. But it does mean you need to put in the work. You are the deciding factor whether you become successful or not successful. And that's up to you. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week. That's just something I've been thinking about. I'm thinking about doing a bit better content where I speak about ideas I'm having and speaking about things that are happening and that I'm thinking about, rather than just saying what happened in my week and what happened here, what happened there. The week did go well. I did enjoy the week, and I did enjoy the amount of work I've got. I'm running a separate product company at the moment. Enjoying that so far. Some good results, some other stressful points. So I'm doing the work. I'm trying to do the work. And studies are starting the 26th of Feb. So I'm going to study and be running this product company, and then doing software and hardware for a different company. So a lot of things are happening this year. I'm very excited. But that's the thing. I am a person that wants to do all of these things to develop the skills. And it's difficult. But that's what I said I wanted to do. I said I wanted to do the difficult things, so now I have got to do them. I can't just back out. So I hope to see you guys succeed as well. And remember, if it gets hard, this is what hard feels like. Have a wonderful day.